The Japanese self-defense forces have decided to retire the AH-1s Cobra attack helicopters that have long been used in their military operations. This decision has attracted the attention of the Philippines, which is interested in receiving these helicopters as an addition to their military forces. The AH-1s Cobra is an attack helicopter that has proven reliable and effective in various military missions. With formidable combat capabilities and advanced weapon systems, these helicopters have been the backbone of Japanese air operations for many years. The Philippines, which is strengthening its defense capabilities amid rising regional tensions, sees this opportunity as an important step to increase its military strength. Receiving the AH-1s Cobra from Japan will give them access to the latest military technology and support their efforts to maintain security and stability in the region. The Philippine Army announced plans to acquire Fuji-Bell AH-1J Huey helicopters from Japan. It also showed interest to get at least one squadron of Fuji-Bell AH-1s Cobra attack helicopters, which are scheduled for retirement from the Japan Self-Defense Force service soon. Speaking of shared attributes, both the JGSDF-R1S Cobra attack helicopter and the UH-1J Huey Iroquois combat utility helicopter are both made by Fuji Heavy Industries, or what is now considered as Subaru Corporation, with both helicopters produced in Japan through a license they secured from Bell Helicopters, the one who originally designed and produced these helicopters intended to the United States military and key allies. Like the license-copied UH-1J Huey Iroquois combat utility helicopter, the Japanese AH-1s Cobra attack helicopter comes with a single Kawasaki T-53K703 engine, and the attack helicopter units have made between 1984 and 2000, making it younger than the Jordanian-donated AH-1s Cobra attack helicopters that the Philippine Air Force received, especially that these helicopters also originates itself from the Israeli Defense Force, who operate the first of such attack helicopters in 1975. Also to take note, the age for some of these JGSDF-R1 attack helicopters counts as younger than the Philippine Air Force's MG-520 light attack helicopter fleet, as the last Fuji-manufactured R1 produced in 2000, not to mention that it took multiple upgrades throughout its service that makes it at par to the AH-1F variant, whereas the MG-520s of the Philippine Air Force entered service in the early 1990s. The specification goes as almost similar to the AH-1s Cobra that the Philippine Air Force received, although the ones that the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force have received its own upgrades and weapons configuration, as the JGSDF's variant comes with tow capability just like the AH-1s Philippine Air Force has, although it remains to be seen if they may get reconfigured to carry Spike air missiles like as described. Speaking of ODA loans, this financing scheme is the one that made Philippine Coast Guard's White Hull acquisition possible, as they bought the 44-meter Parola-class multi-role response vessels and the larger 97-meter BRP Teresa Magbanua, MRRV 9701, and BRP Melchora Kino, MRRV 9702, through this scheme, giving full satisfaction to the Maritime Law Enforcement Agency that the Philippine Coast Guard now has the plans to buy more Teresa Magbanua-class multi-role response vessels for a far more effective maritime law enforcement. Aside from grants, another defense-related highlight during the visit of the Philippine President to Japan is the signing of an agreement that may enable Japanese and Philippine troops to deploy to each other's territory for training and other operations, naming as the Reciprocal Access Agreement, or RAA, an arrangement similar to the Visiting Forces Agreement, or VFA, between the Philippines and the United States. Speaking of ODA loans, this financing scheme is the one that made Philippine Coast Guard's White Hull acquisition possible, as they bought the 44-meter Parola-class multi-role response vessels and the larger 97-meter BRP Teresa Magbanua, MRRV 9701, and BRP Melchora Kino, MRRV 9702, through this scheme, giving full satisfaction to the Maritime Law Enforcement Agency that the Philippine Coast Guard now has the plans to buy more Teresa Magbanua-class multi-role response vessels for a far more effective maritime law enforcement. Aside from grants, another defense-related highlight during the visit of the Philippine President to Japan is the signing of an agreement that may enable Japanese and Philippine troops to deploy to each other's territory for training and other operations, naming as the Reciprocal Access Agreement, or RAA, an arrangement similar to the Visiting Forces Agreement, or VFA, between the Philippines and the United States. It will be interesting to see the results of the forged agreements between Japan and the Philippines, especially on the field of defense down the road, as these things may play the factor on the dynamics not only on how the capabilities of the armed forces of the Philippines may look like once the equipment deals may get unfolded, but also the impact it has to the current implementation of the revised AFP modernization program under the Third Horizon. Still basing on this information that has complete records of R-1 attack helicopters serving the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force, Fuji Heavy Industries built at least 92 units of such type as it fully served the organization and has undertaken multiple upgrades, although that has reduced to 76 units in 2013, and further down to 71 units based on the recent 2022 data. There are reports coming from fellow Philippine defense watchers on Twitter coming from legitimate sources saying that the Philippine Army may get at least one squadron or at least 12 units of the JGSDF R-1s Cobra attack helicopters, although it may not be surprising if the Japanese government or the Philippine military, at their respective discretions, adds more units of the said attack helicopters. Even with the number of units that the Philippine Army sees as they are interested in, there may still be at least remaining units that other countries in the Indo-Pacific countries may get interested to get. Not to mention that the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force also opt to decommission their AH-64 Apache attack helicopter, also made through license by Fuji Heavy Industries, from active service. This comes at the top of the R-1J combat utility helicopters officially reported and detailed in our previous entries here on this website, as these units may further boost the Philippine Army Aviation, Hiraya, regiment's overall capabilities, augmenting the air assets that the Philippine Air Force comes presently in its fleet, like the newly gained T-129 ATAK attack helicopters from Turkey and S-70I Black Hawks from Poland. With this information at hand, it is interesting to see the outcome of this opportunity at hand for the Philippine Army in having these attack helicopters from the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force, although in the end it will still up to the discretion of the Japanese government and the Philippine Army regarding the materialization of this grant, as having it possible surely gives them close air support capabilities almost at par with the ones their Air Force counterparts have with their attack helicopters.